إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن نبينا محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Brothers and sisters, welcome back to another session in our tafsir. We are going through Surah Yusuf. We are getting close, inshallah. By today, hopefully, we'll have covered half of the surah bi'idhnillah. We have reached the part where Yusuf alayhi salam has not only entered the prison, but we reached the part of the story where he is forgotten in the prison. And we mentioned in the last week's session that Yusuf alayhi salam, by this time, he spent about 14 years inside that prison. And then the story shifts, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us about another dream. If you remember, dreams are a central theme in this surah. We have the dream of Yusuf alayhi salam at a young age, and then we have this dream, and then the dream becoming a reality towards the end. So you see dream after dream, and in the prison you have the two inmates who also see a dream, and they go to Yusuf alayhi salam to have their dreams interpreted. So the king sees a dream. Allah Azza wa Jalla says, وَقَالَ الْمَلِكُ إِنِّي أَرَى سَبْعَ بَقَرَاتٍ. Now, from the very beginning, the scholars here, they highlight that even though this is taking place in Egypt, and we know that in the story of Musa alayhi salam, the ruler of Egypt is not referred to as a king. He is referred by the title, or the title of the king, the ruler there is Fir'aun, the Pharaoh. Yet here it shows how precise the Quran is. That the scholars, they say, if it had been something that a person would have written themselves over the span of many years, they might make a mistake in thinking that this is Egypt and they would write Fir'aun. But it shows how precise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is. And history today, if you do research, you will find out that during this period of time, there were no fara'ina, that there was a period of time where there was civil war, and the pharaohs, they lost their power and the ruling of Egypt, and it split into kingdoms. So instead of having one pharaoh that would unite both the north part of Egypt and the south part of Egypt, they've split into kingdoms, and people came and they invaded and so on. Whereas the Pharaoh, the Fir'aun, one of the things that is mentioned in history is that he was the Pharaoh of both the north part of Egypt and the southern part. So he united both parts under his rule. So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala refers to a king, not a Pharaoh. This king saw a dream. Inni ara sab'a baqaratin siman. He says, I've seen in this dream, and he's speaking to the people that are closest to him, his council, people who give him advice. Inni ara sab'a baqarat. I have seen in my dream 7 cows. Siman, thick, healthy, big cows. Ya'kuluhunna sab'un ijaf. These cows are being eaten by 7 ijaf, cows that are not as well built, that are sick, that are skinny. وَسَبْعَ سُنْبُلَاتٍ خُضْرٍ وَأُخْرَى يَابِسَاتٍ. And I see vegetation, corns, fields that are luscious and green, replaced by وَأُخْرَى يَابِسَاتٍ, others that are the opposite, meaning that they are withered away and not as green. So from this dream we understand that the nature of dreams is such that a dream often comes in forms of symbols. So you will very rarely have a dream where the dream spells things out for you, saying do this and don't do that. Usually you will see images, you will see things that represent something, that mean something. And because of this, interpreting dreams is, like we said, something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blesses certain people with, and it is not a knowledge that can be taught or studied. So he says to the people, his council, Ya ayyuhal mala, O noble people, aftuni, give me a verdict. And we spoke about how dreams are a fatwa. Fi ru'yaya, in my dream. Give me the meaning of this dream. In kuntum lirru'ya ta'burun, if you are able to interpret dreams. So now these people speak, and I want us to pay close attention to how they respond. This is the king, they are the council, they respond back to the king and they say, Adghathu ahlam. They say, the dream that you had is nothing more than mixed up nightmares. Notice when the king speaks, he says, Aftuni fi ru'yaya. He uses the word ru'ya. In kuntum lirru'ya ta'burun. And the scholars in Islam, like we mentioned in the early classes, dreams are of three categories. They are dreams that are based on things that people think about during the day. So if you go to sleep thirsty, then you're going to dream about drinking water. And the second part is dreams that are true, that are from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we say these kind of dreams, they give glad tidings to people. Okay, so we don't take Islamic rulings. If you see in a dream someone in the form of the Prophet ﷺ telling you, you don't have to pray salah anymore, we say this is not a true dream. These dreams we call ru'ya or ru'a, meaning that they are good dreams. The third category are the ahlam or the hulum, meaning dreams that are nightmares that are from shaitan. And the sunnah is that when we see a dream that frightens us, we should not share it with anyone. We don't tell anyone, we seek refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we keep it to ourselves. So the king is saying, I saw a ru'ya, a good dream. And these people are telling him, Adghathu ahlam, it is mixed up dreams. وَمَا نَحْنُ بِتَأْوِيلِ الْأَحْلَامِ بِعَالِمِينَ. And we don't have the skill, we don't have the knowledge to interpret nightmares. Now the scholars here, they say, this is a very good example of something that is known as al-jahl al-murakkab or jahlun murakkab. What is jahl murakkab? Jahl murakkab is compound ignorance, meaning ignorance upon ignorance. The scholars, they say jahl, ignorance itself, it is divided into two categories. Ignorance is of two types. There is jahl basit, meaning simple ignorance. And then you have the second category, which is jahl murakkab, meaning compound ignorance. What is the example of simple ignorance? Simple ignorance is the type of ignorance that we are usually familiar with. It is if a person asks you a question and you don't know the answer to it. They say, how many times do we as Muslims pray salah? And you don't know the answer, you say, La adri, I don't know. Everyone is guilty of jahl basit from time to time. And there is no shame in not knowing. Saying La adri, the scholars, they have many beautiful stories about saying the word La adri, I do not know. And the most well-known story is that of Imam Malik, Imam Darul Hijrah, one of the greatest scholars in Islam. People used to travel far, far away from different parts of the world just to come and study and benefit from him in Medina. And the story goes that a group of people, they had left their country and they traveled all the way to Medina to ask Imam Malik a few questions. 40 odd questions, and Imam Malik only answered 2 of them. And the rest of the questions, when they would ask, he would say, La adri, la adri, la adri. I do not know, I do not know, I do not know. And the people, they were disappointed. And they said, what are we going to tell our people when we go back to them? We traveled all this time, so far. We spent so much of our wealth coming to Medina to ask the greatest scholar. And he's saying that he doesn't know. And Imam Malik told him, he said, go back to your people and tell them Imam Malik does not know. And this shows us, it teaches us that there is no shame in not knowing the answer. So if a person doesn't know, then this is, the scholars, they say, jahlun basit. It is simple ignorance. Jahl murakkab is the problem. It is compound in the fact that a person does not realize that they are ignorant. They are ignorant of their own ignorance. So what would be the example? It is if a person asks, how many times do Muslims pray? And the person confidently, he says, they pray 7 times. Or Muslims, we pray 7 times. He is mistaken, first of all. He is ignorant. And he is confident in his ignorance. And this causes more of a problem. So coming back to the story here, these people, they're saying, adghathu ahlam, it is mixed up dreams. And we don't even know how to interpret nightmares. But the question is not about nightmares. It is about a dream that the king feels has importance. And then, who overhears this speech? Because the king, this is on the mind of the king, and he's speaking to his council. The man who was with Yusuf not too long ago in the prison, he is now a free man. And he came back and he's working for the king. So Allah Azza wa Jalla says, وَقَالَ الَّذِي نَجَى مِنْهُمَا وَادَّكَرَ بَعْدَ أُمَّةٍ, that the man who had forgotten, he is the one that remembers. وَادَّكَرَ بَعْدَ أُمَّةٍ, that he remembers after an ummah. The scholars in Islam, they say that the word ummah in the Quran is used to mean 4 main different things. And this again, it shows us that just knowing Arabic is not enough to understand the Quran. Because for an Arab, most people, if you say the word ummah, maybe one meaning comes to mind. But in the Quran, in the Fusha, there are 4 different meanings for the word that is used. One of them is this place here, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala refers to ummah as a period of time. وَادَّكَرَ بَعْدَ ummah. He remembered after a period of time. Another is meaning millah, meaning religion or tradition, where Allah Azza wa Jalla says, إِنَّا وَجَدْنَا آبَاءَنَا عَلَى أُمَّةٍ. We found our forefathers upon an ummah, upon a path, a millah, a religion, a practice. Another such thing is, ummah means imam. Inna Ibrahima kana ummatan. That Ibrahim alayhi salam, even though he's one person, he is an ummah. By himself, he is an ummah. And the scholars here, they say ummah means imam. And then finally, ummah means the way that we often think of it, as a group of people. Allah Azza wa Jalla says, وَلَمَّا وَرَدَ مَاءَ مَدْيَنَ وَجَدَ عَلَيْهِ أُمَّةً مِنَ النَّاسِ أُمَّةً مِنَ النَّاسِ يَسْقُونَ. So these are 4 ways that the word ummah is used in the Quran. So he remembers after a period of time. And what does he say? أَنَا أُنَبِّئُكُمْ بِتَأْوِيلِهِ فَأَرْسِلُونَ. I will tell you of the meaning of this dream. فَأَرْسِلُونَ, just send me. Now, this shows us the character of this person. That he doesn't say to the king, I know someone that knows how to interpret dreams. He wants to take the credit for himself. So he's saying, Ana unabbi'ukum. I am the one that will tell you about it. Fa'arsilun, send me. So the king notices that this man, in order to interpret the dream, he has to go somewhere. So he realizes that the interpretation of the dream is not coming from the man, but he is going to seek out someone who knows how to interpret it. And also there's a lesson here, that as Muslims, we are not the type of people that look for praise, that look to take credit for things. We as Muslims, we help wherever we can, whether it is in our name or we are never mentioned whatsoever. Where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala praises the people of Jannah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّمَا نُطْعِمُكُمْ لِوَجْهِ اللَّهِ. That we feed you, meaning the people that are in need, we feed you, why? لِوَجْهِ اللَّهِ. For Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. لَا نُرِيدُ مِنْكُمْ جَزَاءً وَلَا شُكُورًا. We do not want from you any reward. وَلَا شُكُورًا. And we don't even want thanks. We don't want gratitude. If you're grateful, alhamdulillah. And this is the way that a Muslim should be. That you, when someone does something good towards you or for you, then you show gratitude. هَلْ جَزَاءُ الْإِحْسَانِ إِلَّا الْإِحْسَانِ. But we do not seek it out. So when it comes to the type of people who seek out praise and credit and so on, this is not the way that a Muslim behaves. So he comes back to Yusuf alayhi salam and he says, notice he's been absent for many years, completely forgot about Yusuf alayhi salam. And the first thing when he sees Yusuf, he doesn't say, sorry Yusuf, I forgot about you, how are you doing, let me work on getting you out, I can't believe that I forgot. No excuse whatsoever. Instead, he starts with sweet speech. And he says, Yusuf, ayyuha siddiq, O Yusuf, the truthful one. And this again, it shows the character of this person. So when we see people that are highlighted in the Quran as having very bad character, those are the type of people that we should not imitate. We should follow in the footsteps of the people that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has praised in the Quran. So this man, and this is something that we experience in life too often, is that the same people that you helped yesterday are the people that not only forget about you, but the people that end up backstabbing you and working against you. But there's a cure for this. If a person keeps reminding themselves, saying that, oh, I did this for this person, and I helped him, and I helped her, and I did so much for these people, and they still backstab me. This will lead you down a very dark path. But rather, if you leave it for the sake of Allah, and you say, ultimately I did it for the sake of Allah, I didn't want them to recognize me, then alhamdulillah, this will give you salamatul qalb, meaning that your heart will be at peace. And this is the secret behind the works of the great scholars. Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah, another great Imam, student of Imam Malik that we mentioned not too long ago. This great Imam, he said a very beautiful statement. He said, oh, how I wish that people would learn this knowledge, meaning the knowledge of Islam, the Quran and the Sunnah, that people would learn this knowledge and would not attribute a single letter of it to me. Meaning that I wish people just benefited without saying Imam Shafi'i, Imam Shafi'i, Imam Shafi'i. This shows us the sincerity that we so often lack. That we want to be mentioned as the scholar. We want to be mentioned as such and such. But true ikhlas is that you leave it up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that you do something for the sake of Allah and you don't mention it to people. So this man, he says, Yusuf ayyuha Siddiq, aftina fi sab'i baqarat. So he mentions the dream to him. He doesn't give any context. He doesn't say that this is a request from the king himself. He just goes straight into, he says, just tell me about this dream. What do you think? And this again is where Yusuf alayhi salam's character shines. That Yusuf alayhi salam, without missing a beat, he interprets the dream. He doesn't say, what happened? You were supposed to remind the king about me. And now you come, the audacity. He doesn't hold the man accountable. He leaves it for the sake of Allah. And he interprets the dream to him. And before the man finishes, he says, subhanallah, it shows again the character. He says, لَعَلِّي أَرَجِعُ إِلَى النَّاسِ لَعَلَّهُمْ يَعْلَمُونَ. He wants to take credit. He's saying, so that I may go back to the people and inform them of this dream. I don't care about you coming out of prison. You can stay here, but I'll take the full credit. Yusuf alayhi salam responds, and he says, not only does he interpret the dream for the man, but he adds to it. And this is the true meaning of ihsan. Remember how before, throughout the story, when the people come to Yusuf and they say, Inna naraka min al-muhsinin, Inna naraka min al-muhsinin. The scholars, they say, true ihsan is not just to give the person what they need, but you go above and beyond. You give them what they need and you add to it. This is why when we say someone is a muhsin, he's the one that helps people. Instead of just giving them what they need for the day, he gives them even more. So Yusuf alayhi salam, not only does he interpret the dream for them, for this man, he even gives him a plan. He tells him that the meaning of the dream is that there's going to be years of wealth, easy years that will come. And after that, there's going to be difficult years. So he tells them, make sure that you save enough so that you can see it through during the difficult, the drought and the famine and so on. So he's telling them everything that they need to do. And then he says, ثُمَّ يَأْتِي مِن بَعْدِ ذَلِكَ عَامٌ فِيهِ يُغَاثُ النَّاسِ وَفِيهِ يَعْصِرُونَ. This verse here, the scholars, they highlight that this is not directly from the dream, but it shows the way that Yusuf alayhi salam understands and how skillful he is in interpreting dreams. He's saying that after all that famine, after the good years and then the famine, there's going to be an additional year where things are going to become good again. And this again is not directly from the dream, but it is something that is understood in between. And then the king says, because this man now he came back and he told the king about the dream. And the king is not a foolish man. He knows that this man ran away somewhere and now he's coming back and he's finding out. So he says, وَقَالَ الْمَلِكُ, Allah Azza wa Jalla says, وَقَالَ الْمَلِكُ ائْتُونِي بِهِ, bring him to me. فَلَمَّا جَاءَهُ الرَّسُولُ. So the king is requesting the presence of Yusuf alayhi salam. And when he requests, he sends a message to the prison. And this messenger, this Rasul, when he encounters Yusuf, instead of Yusuf just leaving the prison and going with the messenger, Yusuf alayhi salam stops. And he tells the messenger, this envoy, Irji' ila rabbik, go back to your Lord, to the king. فَاسْأَلْهُ مَا بَالُ النِّسْوَةِ اللَّاتِي قَطَّعْنَ أَيْدِيَهُنْ. Ask the king to ask the women that wrongfully accused me, the ones literally that cut their hands, cut their fingers. And there is a hadith that is found, that is authentic from the Prophet ﷺ, where he says, I am amazed by my brother Yusuf alayhi salam and his beautiful patience, that this man, this envoy is coming to him, giving him a chance to leave the prison. But Yusuf alayhi salam wants to clear his name. And Yusuf alayhi the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he says, if it was me, if I was in Yusuf alayhi salam's place, I would have run towards the door. I would have run towards the door to leave the prison. And this shows us the character of Yusuf alayhi salam, who Yusuf alayhi salam is. And the point here of clarifying or making it known your innocence, this is something that is allowed in Islam. That for you to clear your name and to make it such that people know the truth of doubtful matters, this is not only allowed, but in certain circumstances and cases, it is advised. Because at the end of the day, a person, your name has weight. It has importance in the sense that if your name is tarnished, especially if it is just due to a rumor, then it makes life difficult for you. So for you to stand up for yourself and to make it clear that what people are saying are lies, this is permissible. So Yusuf alayhi salam says, go back. Inna Rabbi, my Lord, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, بِكَيْدِهِنَّ عَلِيمٌ. Allah Azza wa Jal knows of their plot. And then the king summons the women and he asks them, مَا خَطُبُكُنَّ إِذْ رَاوَتُنَّ يُوسُفَ عَنْ نَفْسِهِ. Now from the speech of the king, we notice that he is realizing who Yusuf alayhi salam is. Yusuf is still in the prison. He hasn't really come out yet. But his character speaks all the way from the prison. So when the king is saying to the women, he's saying, what is the story regarding you seducing Yusuf? And the women, they say, قُلْنَ حَاشَ لِلَّهِ, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be far removed from any imperfections. And the fact that they use the word Allah, we mentioned it previously, this doesn't mean that they're Muslims, but they are mushrikun. So they know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but they associate partners with Allah. مَا عَلِمْنَا عَلَيْهِ مِنْ سُوءٍ. We do not know of any bad thing. And this is, the scholars here, they highlight that the truth always comes out, sooner or later. People, they try so hard to cover up the truth, to hide the truth, but the truth always finds a way, whether it is in this dunya or in the akhirah. قالت امرأة العزيز, the wife of the Aziz, the one who was behind all of it, she says, الآن حصحص الحق. Now at this moment, حصحص, meaning it has become apparent. Al-Haq, the truth. أَنَا رَاوَدْتُهُ عَنْ نَفْسِهِ. I am the one that tried to seduce Yusuf. وَإِنَّهُ لَمِنَ الصَّادِقِينَ. And verily Yusuf alayhi salam was from the truthful ones. And this, it gives us reassurance as Muslims that even if everyone lies against you, even if they make up rumors about you, if you place your trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there's always going to be a way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will clear your name. ذَلِكَ لِيَعْلَمَ أَنِّي لَمْ أَخُنْهُ بِالْغَيْبِ وَأَنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَهْدِي كَيْدَ الْخَائِنِينَ. The scholars here, they say, some of them, they say, this is the speech of Imra'atul Aziz, this woman. She says, I say this, I tell the truth, so that my husband knows that I never betrayed him. Yes, I did have feelings for Yusuf. Yes, I did try to seduce him, but nothing happened beyond that. Meaning that the evil act, al-fahisha, the zina, did not happen. وَأَنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَهْدِي كَيْدَ الْخَائِنِينَ, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not guide the plots of those that are the kha'in, the one who betrays, or the treacherous ones. And again, when she speaks like this, as Muslims we think, oh, she became a Muslim. But again, we don't have evidence for it. And the mushrikun, they know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This does not mean that she is a believer. And then it continues. Allah Azza wa Jalla says, وَمَا أُبَرِّئُ نَفْسِي, that she is saying, I do not free myself from any blame. إِنَّ النَّفْسَ لَأَمَّارَةٌ بِالسُّوءِ إِلَّا مَا رَحِمَ رَبِّي, that verily the soul, the nafs, it commands or it pushes towards the evil. إِلَّا مَا رَحِمَ رَبِّي, except that which my Lord Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mercy, meaning protecting. The mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the form of protecting the person from these type of thoughts and actions. Inna Rabbi Ghafurur Rahim, verily my Lord is Ghafur and Rahim. Again, it does not mean necessarily that she is a believer. Another interpretation is that this part is said by Yusuf alayhi salam, that it is Yusuf alayhi salam that is making it clear. And when he says وَمَا أُبَرِّئُ نَفْسِي, and I do not claim to be pious or pure, in this context, as some of the scholars have said, it refers to Yusuf alayhi salam's the ham he had towards her. وَلَقَدْ هَمَّتْ بِهِ وَهَمَّ بِهَا لَوْلَا أَنْ رَأَى بُرْهَانَ رَبِّهِ. And we are not held accountable by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the thoughts and the desires that we have. We are only held accountable by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the actions that we take. So if something becomes a desire, the only thing that a person needs to do is to seek refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in fact, the Prophet ﷺ told us that the ham, if it is left for the sake of Allah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward that person. There will be a hasana that is written, a good deed for that person. And then the last few verses, the king says, وَقَالَ الْمَلِكُ تُونِي بِهِ أَسْتَخْلِصْهُ نَفْسِي. Now the king is realizing the character of Yusuf. So he says, bring him to me, أَسْتَخْلِصْهُ لِنَفْسِي, I will make him for myself. Literally, I will make him for myself. And this means that Yusuf alayhi salam will be from amongst the closest people to the king himself. فَلَمَّا كَلَّمَهُ, and then when he spoke to him, قال, the king said. So before he even meets Yusuf, he says, bring Yusuf, and he is going to be close to me. And once he speaks to Yusuf, he makes up his final decree. He says, إِنَّكَ الْيَوْمَ لَدَيْنَا مَكِينٌ أَمِينٌ. You are today with us, and you will be makeen, an established person, ameen, trustworthy. This is straight from the king. No wasita, no people in between him and the king. He is straight there with the king. And this is after he speaks to Yusuf. You know, sometimes when we go for job interviews, right? You send your CV, and then you wait, and then they call you for an interview. And once you go for the interview, you don't know how it went. The king himself is calling Yusuf alayhi salam. And once he hears Yusuf speak, he says, that's it, I don't need to hear more. Today you are with us, makeenun ameen, established. You don't have to worry about anything else. And then what does Yusuf alayhi salam say? قَالَ اجْعَلْنِي عَلَى خَزَائِنِ الْأَرْضِ. He makes a request. He says, make me a treasurer of the land. Meaning, so that he can prepare for the famine, the drought, and everything that will come. And he says, Inni hafidun alim, because I am hafid and I am alim. These verses actually might need a little bit more explanation, but to make it short and simple for us here, and to conclude inshallah, there are 4 traits that are mentioned: Makin, Amin, Hafid, and Alim. The scholars, they say these 4 traits, when combined, it shows a very perfect individual. Because once you're established and you have the authority, not everyone that has authority achieve that authority rightfully. Sometimes people, they get a place of authority because their father had authority, so he just gives it to his child. Or people bribe each other, and then you get a place of authority. But Yusuf alayhi salam received that because he is Hafidun Alim and Amin. And not everyone that is trustworthy becomes a person of authority. And not everyone that is trustworthy is necessarily a person that has knowledge and these other traits that are mentioned. Sometimes they say a foolish friend sometimes causes more harm than the enemy himself, right? Your friend is trustworthy, he's a good person, but because he is not knowledgeable, because he doesn't know how to carry out things, he ends up causing more harm than benefit. So Yusuf alayhi salam, when he's being described in this surah, and what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us of Yusuf, it is his character is always, there's always new sides to his character. And we'll just add these 2 verses, and inshallah maybe in the next week's class we'll revisit these verses. Allah Azza wa Jalla says, وَكَذَلِكَ مَكَّنَّا لِيُوسُفَ فِي الْأَرْضِ. And in such a way we placed Yusuf alayhi salam, established him on the land. Just a few ayats before, Yusuf alayhi salam was in the depths of the prison. He was forgotten. Even the man who was his cellmate, who had been freed, he forgot about Yusuf. And now he is sitting there next with the king, or next to the king. يَتَبَوَّأُ مِنْهَا حَيْثُ يَشَاءُ. That he can go wherever he wants on the land. He is recognized. He is the hand of the king. He is the one that the king, in the beginning of the verses, remember, the king is speaking to his mala, his private council. And now Yusuf alayhi salam is even beyond them. He is next to the king. نُصِيبُ بِرَحْمَتِنَا مَن نَشَاءُ. And in such a way we grant our mercy to whomever we want. وَلَا نُضِيعُ أَجْرَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and we do not let the reward of the muhsinin to go in vain. Allah Azza wa Jal, the Creator himself, refers to Yusuf alayhi salam yet again as muhsinin, from the muhsinin. And this also, it gives us hope that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in other parts of the Quran, إِنَّا لَا نُضِيعُ أَجْرَ مَنْ أَحْسَنَ عَمَلًا. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will never let the reward of a good person go to waste. Even the kafir, even the person who doesn't believe in Allah, when they do a good deed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rewards them. How is their reward? Their reward is in this dunya. So that on Yawmul Qiyamah there is no good deed to show. And this shows the beauty of good deeds. The good deeds always bring the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَلَأَجْرُ الْآخِرَةِ خَيْرٌ لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَكَانُوا يَتَّقُونَ. And this last verse, Allah Azza wa Jal reminds us that the reward of the akhirah is far better for those that believe and have taqwa. If you are amazed of how Yusuf alayhi salam went from the very bottom of the society right to the top, and all these blessings that happened to Yusuf alayhi salam in his life, remember that the reward with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is far greater in the akhirah. And also know that the reward in the akhirah, it can be achieved by doing two things, two simple things: to have iman and come with the actions, the taqwa. If you have the iman and you come with the taqwa, it's easier said than done, but then your reward will be in the akhirah far greater than what Yusuf alayhi salam received in this dunya. And inshallah with that we will conclude. هذا وصلى الله على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.